Hello, 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 everybody. I am super excited to be here to introduce you to my person today, okay? If you're new to seeing me, hello, I am Niala, CEO of Market Your Message. And what I'm doing today is I am going to be sharing one of my longtime clients and just wanting for you to get to know her as well as getting to know her story. Because I truly believe that your story is what impacts everything around you, right? And so just, hearing from someone else who is in business just like you may inspire you. And that is my goal for sharing, this video with you. So, drum roll. I would like to introduce you guys to Nena Abdul-Wakeel. I am going to let her tell you all about herself. Nena, how are you, girlfriend? How are you?
I cannot believe that we are on here. It feels so good to see you and talk to you. It's been a minute, but it's all good. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with your community. You have definitely been instrumental in my journey. So it gives me pleasure to share how I've grown and how you've helped me grow.
Yeah, I'm excited. Okay, so let's start with telling everybody, what you do and who do you serve? Let's start there.
So as you said, I'm Nena Abdul-Wakeel. I'm affectionately known as Miss Nena B. And I'm the founder of the Social Media Success Network. And so I help entrepreneurs and career professionals learn to leverage social media to grow their next opportunity, whether it's a speaker or it's a new career position. How do you kind of brand yourself and utilize social media as a tool to grow your business, to grow to your next level? And so I love doing that.
Yeah, I love that. And you know how much I love tools and how much I feel that tools are important. So yeah. So let's start with like your beginning, right? So we know that a lot of the people who are listening to us, they're entrepreneurs just like me, just like you. And I want them to know what it's like to get started, right? So let's start with your beginning. How was it when you started in entrepreneurship?
Oh my goodness. Well, I would say I kind of could fall into the category of a serial entrepreneur. Like I always had a side hustle, right? I always had something happening.
Yeah.
But moving into this kind of online space is a whole different animal. Learning social media and learning all the tools and techniques to leverage it is a whole different experience. And starting out, I started with having a podcast, and I was just kind of sharing information with people. And it was like somebody reached out to me that I didn't know, wasn't one of my 5 friends that I had on social media, and said, "Hey, I would love to be on your podcast." And it was like she opened a doorway and I stepped in it and I was like, what in the world is happening over here? Where did all these people come from? Where did all these techniques and tools and coaches and this and that, master classes? I didn't know any of that. And my initial thought was I was overwhelmed. I was like, oh my goodness. Now I'm college educated. I work as a career professional. I'm a leader in my space, in my career and corporate space. But I was overwhelmed. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
And you're like, where do I start?
Yeah.
And what does half of it mean?
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. You know what? Because a lot of people, especially the people who I work with, as you know, I work with a lot of people who are corporate professionals, who are experts in their own right, who've accomplished so much in their careers. And so they come into this space and it is overwhelming. And I want to touch on something. And I know you are somebody that loves to be open and transparent with people. So what was it like for you dealing with that whole mental side of, I'm on top of my game in my career, but now I'm coming into this new space and I feel like I'm overwhelmed, I'm confused, what's happening here? How did you get through that?
Well, I had a lot of starts and stops. because there were points
Okay.
when I was just like, okay, I'm not gonna do this. I give
Okay.
up. And it's too much. But then there was something on the inside that said, no, you're not giving up. You've got a purpose behind doing this. And so that's where you start to really become aware that there's a reason why you've stepped into this space. There are people that you're called to help. And
Yeah.
so you got to really, hone in on your why. And then that helps you see the challenges in a different light.
Yeah. Yeah. So what made you decide that, okay, it's time that I needed to get a coach on this journey? When did that happen for you? What was
Okay.
that like?
Yeah. So I was in several communities, I
Mm-hmm.
will say. And like a lot of people, I was absorbing information for free. I opted into so many different things and tried to read and understand. I even went to a couple of conferences that different people held, but I recognized that I wanted another level of support and needed another level of support. And knowing myself, I needed someone that I could connect to, because every coach isn't for everybody.
Right.
Right? You've got to find someone that you can relate to, that you feel like they hear you,
Yeah.
and they're understanding your language, and they're speaking your language, and that you have an indication that when it gets tough, I can still work with this person. And so that led me to, I was in your community.
Yeah.
I went to your event, right? So it was it was so much love and connection for me, that when you opened up your membership, your program, it was a no-brainer for me. I was like, I got to get in. And in fact, I remember when we had the little side conversation, and we were talking even about the money. You're like, are you sure you're going to pay all of this? And I was like, yes, because I'm committed.
Oh, and you know what? Thank you for mentioning that. You just said it. You just said everything, because you know what I feel about those C's. And one of them is commitment. And you were committed. You were
Yeah.
committed, even though it was like, okay, I have all these strategies. I'm not sure which way I'm gonna go, but I'm committed to making this happen. And it's so crazy as I think of your journey. There were a lot of times that you said, I committed, I did it. I did that training, I did that thing. And, so let's talk a little bit about commitment. Let's talk
Okay.
about that,
Yeah.
especially because, again, it's important. How does somebody develop commitment on that level? How do they tap into that?
Well, I think it starts with, well, it does start with your why, but aside from that is commit to yourself. Be committed to yourself. Like, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know how this is going to turn out. But at a minimum, I got to say I'm committed to myself that I'm going to try. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make some actions. I'm going to take some actions to move it forward. It's not always going to be smooth. I know that. But I'm going to commit, and connecting myself to someone that I feel will hold me accountable.
That's the
Right?
next word. Mm-hmm.
So, just knowing that commitment doesn't mean that you're not going to have moments of doubt. Commitment doesn't mean that you're not going to have moments when you want to throw in the towel. But commitment says, at the end of the day, I'm coming back in. I'm coming
So,
back into the ring.
yeah, yeah. And speaking of coming back into the ring, all of those times that you had to stop and start, or you went through that, phase where it's like, okay, I'm going to take a step back, but now I'm coming back into the ring again. What would you say is one takeaway that you take away from those experiences that you think another person needs to hear?
Each time I learn something about myself, and I got clearer on my purpose. So those aren't necessarily bad things when those happen. Sometimes it's designed for you to really, it's a step back in order to leap forward, because you get to take a look at the landscape and say, you know what, this is working, this isn't. So I'm going to go in this direction more. Yeah. So, those starts and stops is not like I'm teetering. Should I be in this? It could be just your moment of clarity.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's shift a little bit, because you're also one of my clients that not only joined the Market Your Message program, but you didn't even know about this. And this is something that I always tell people, that I'm all about messaging. So when you look at my brand, that's what you see. But when you come into my world, it's just so much more. And so I have a planning system, because I was one of those people that, was raising 2 children in elementary while still working a job, while still trying to run a business. And I created these plans for myself, and I give them to my clients. And I remember Nena's first year. We got to start there. Okay, we got to start there, Nena, because we have to start there, because so many people look at planning like it's a mountain. And I just see it as something totally different, So let's start with year 1, right? We did Plan to Profit, the intensive. I think it was supposed to be, virtual that day. It was like 8 hours. We did it. Tell everybody that experience. Free some people, please.
Oh my God. Do I really have? Okay, I'm going to be transparent, put my stuff out there. So the system, first of all, Nyala is a genius, and some people, they get extra measure of that planning, organizational gene, and others of us don't. Okay. But I am an analytical person, so it all made sense logically. Yeah. But when I had to sit down and start working through the stuff, I started having a physical reaction to it, to the point that I was physically overwhelmed. I was like in tears, because it was just a level that I couldn't process. I couldn't handle it. And so I literally was like, I'm tapping out.
Yep.
I'm tapping out.
I think it was like day 2. I was like, where's Nena?
I'm tapping out. I'm out of here.
But then what happened? Because now the new year started, and what happened?
So the stuff that I had done, that I had pushed myself through and did, I still used. I realized that I didn't maximize everything because I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But I realized, like, do as much as you can do until you're ready to do more. But doing nothing was not an option because I was committed.
Yeah.
So I couldn't just disappear. Nyala will look for you. She don't hunt you down. She don't hunt you down in a bad way, but in a loving way. And when you start building relationships with your coach, you can't just walk away, right? Because they're invested in you just like you're invested in you. Yeah. And so I used what I had into my next year, and I started seeing the connection to how I worked on my product and built my program. And over time, it all started to just sync up.
Yeah.
But I'll admit that first year, I'm having flashbacks right now. Woo!
And I say this, and some people, I needed you guys to hear that right there, because it is okay if you see this and it's like, okay, wait a minute, this seems like it's a lot for me to do. It's okay, and it's normal to feel that, because it's new territory, and everything that's new, it takes time for you to make it yours, right? And that's something that I always say to my clients, is like, this is the blueprint, this is the framework, but now you got to make it fit what? Your lifestyle, your goals, and your personality, because we are all, you know, different. We all think different. We all see things different. And what's so funny, Nena, is that last year's Plan to Profit, I got the footage, I got the pictures to prove it. Last year Plan to Profit, guess who was up there on the whiteboard training and mapping out, letting, like, making other people who was a little bit confused or needed a little bit more clarity. This one was the one up. Yeah. And so,
yes, exactly. So when we had in person, well, it was some people virtual too, and we were talking about some concepts, I had learned and understood it to the degree that I could teach it. And I was like, well, let me get on the whiteboard. and I was like, let me see if I can explain it a different way. And I realized that that's because I hadn't given up.
Yeah.
I hadn't given up on myself. I hadn't given up on the process, the framework, and I recognized how valuable it was. And I wanted other people to understand it too.
Yeah.
And so, I'm like, what a flip, you know, not that I was in the room, but I'm up at the whiteboard, impromptu
training. That's right. That's right. So now we're going to talk about, we're still on the planning and we're still on the Plan to Profit blueprint, how important it is to have it in your business. But I want to talk about the fact that you are also, like you said, in a high demand career.
Yes.
And so you're one of my clients that did not always have the time that sometimes you need to launch. That's something you guys hear a lot about, right? You didn't have the time to do all of that. So how did the Plan to Profit blueprint help with your day-to-day?
So first of all, I you know, the Plan to Profit blueprint is scalable.
Yeah.
Right. So this is one of the things I love about it, is because, you know, you can work with a lot of coaches that be like, okay, this is what I expect you to do. This is the plan. You're going to go for, you know, 7 figures and so forth. But you're like, in my life, I got this other thing going on that I'm not necessarily called to let go of. And so it was a no-brainer conversation with you to say, hey, when I map out my business goals, my social media success stuff, it's taking into consideration I'm working a full-time, high powerful job, but I still have this business. And so the blueprint still works. It just, I had to scale it, and I had to recognize that I could not be intimidated by other people's numbers. These are my numbers because it's my business.
That's right. And that's something that I think is important for you guys to hear, you know. And again, this is why I believe the Plan to Profit blueprint is something that, even though I work with coaches and service professionals, I believe that this is for everyone that owns a business, because it's very important for you to create your ideal working schedules, your programs, your plans, the way you deliver things. Everything should be customized to your life. Y'all been hearing me say this over and over and over. Run the business, don't let it run you. And this is what Plan to Profit, the blueprint, helps you do. Again, by you following it, you know. And what makes it, okay. Let me bring it back a little bit. So, all right, let's talk about what it was like for you to go through your launches, because you did do at least, I don't know, I think I can remember 3 launches that you did with me. So how was that? How did the Plan to Profit aid in that one?
Oh, mapping out my timeline. Because sometimes we think about, we're going to launch and we look up and it's like, oh, I thought I was going to launch, you know, next week. And there's a whole bunch of pre-steps that go along with it. And you have to factor in other elements of your life. Right. And so, you know, mapping out that calendar, that quarter by quarter, or, you know, and really the year, because, you know, if depending on your rhythm, you know, you may need to look at it from a year. I found it helpful for me to look at 2 quarters at a time.
Yeah.
And so that I knew what I should be up to at a certain point in time, so that when I was time for my launch to me tends to be this whole, and this is just my own mindset, launch is often taught like it's an event at a point in time, but there's so much that has to happen pre and post.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a whole sequence of events. So looking at it from that perspective really helps you not get overwhelmed at a point in time. You can say, okay, at this point in time, I'm working on my marketing material and I'm seeding, right? I'm seeding what I'm teaching in my community. I'm setting things up so that I don't suddenly just show up and say, hey, I got this, opportunity. So it's all about the planning and not to overwhelm yourself.
How did the planning help you with producing your content?
Oh, well, it made it clear as to what I should be focused on. Because you can learn a lot. I know a lot of different things, but if I know my product that I'm going to be selling is going to be focused on X, then I need to be seeding and starting to communicate to my community about either something leading to X or things about X, the benefits of X, all of those kind of things. So then it becomes, okay, this is what I should be talking about.
Yep. And I love that you said that, because again, a lot of people say, well, I'm on this social media, and because this is what you teach every day, and people are on the social media, but I don't know what to say. I don't know what to, how do I write a caption that's going to get people to pay attention to whatever it is? And I always say, if people are asking that question, it's because they did not plan. Your plan literally, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that is also one of the benefits. Even though I teach social media, I have that analysis paralysis too, right?
We all do.
One of the things that I really appreciate about you and how you support your clients is you give us so much stuff. Do we really almost have to fill in the blank and use it, right? You give us so much stuff that it becomes a no-brainer. So, from early on, I was pulling down, okay, these are the things, weeks before your launch, this is the questions you could answer, or a post you could do. You did all of that. So it was just really like utilizing the tools that you made available to us.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So we're going to bring it down to the wire. I want you to I'm going to let you free talk here. And just because here's where this question is coming from. Last year, Plan to Profit, you had said something that was very important, which is that being able to be prepared before entering a new year, and what it does for you and how it makes you feel entering into a new year. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Like, what would you tell somebody right now? Like 3 things that you would tell them that they need to think about when they're entering their new year, why this may be something they want to pay attention to.
So I'll just go from what comes to my head from a financial perspective, right? Yeah. Usually at the end of the year, if you're using the calendar year, you're looking at, you got to file your taxes or what have you, and you're looking at your revenue and your expenses. And suddenly you're saying, I'm putting out all this money on tools and other things and services. Am I bringing in that money to cover those expenses and more?
Yeah.
And in most cases, especially if you're starting out, the answer is no, right? Let's be real.
Yeah.
But how do you start to change the tide on that? You have to be intentional. That means you have to plan. That means you have to know what products you have, when you're launching, how many people you're going to try to get, and then how many people you need to get on the list or in a challenge. So all of those numbers matter, right?
Yeah.
And it can be overwhelming at first, but what I would say is if you do it, then it will start to make sense. And that's where the planning comes in. So you can look and say, hey, it worked. Or maybe I didn't get as many people as I thought, but let me try it again. So planning, because you ultimately want to have a financially successful business, it doesn't happen by accident. You got to plan. And then I'll say emotionally. Having your own business is, pulling from inside out. It just is. And you have to have a way so that you can be pouring back into yourself. It becomes less draining, in my perspective, if you're planning, because you're not scrambling around trying to figure out what you should be doing. Maybe I'll try this, or maybe I'll try that, or you'll hear something, or you'll see a post. Oh, I'm going to go do that now. So that hopping around, that context switching is also emotional draining. When you start to plan and commit to yourself, I'm going to follow this plan. Maybe you say, this quarter, I'm going to follow the plan for this quarter. Then I'll assess and see if I need to tweak it. Any of that. But all of that helps you stay more grounded, stay more balanced in your emotions about your business. And you'll be surprised in how that translates into your attractiveness to potential clients.
That right there. Nena just said everything. That right there is very important, because I always say you attract who you are. And so if you're somebody who's, operating without plans, operating with chaos, confusion, that's what people see. That's what people see. So you kind of just attract people who are just like that. And those are not the people who's ready to take the next step, which is what you're looking for them to do. And it's so, and you mentioning that makes me think of myself, like even how we came together. Yes, the first year, it was a little bit like, okay, this is a mountain that I have to climb right now. But because of the way I laid things out, even from our event, the way the event was laid out, very step by step, very this. So at the end of the event, I think you had like your story. I think you were one of the people that told their story in front of the room. And it's like, I attracted someone who was committed to making this work and committed to planning her business, planning how she wanted her year to look like, and then coming every year and doing it again. I think, Nena, you did 3 years, right? Yeah. I believe you did it 3 years. So I just hope this encourages somebody. Yeah. I really, really do. I hope that if you are someone who's maybe a 9-to-5, you're working a corporate job and you want to know, like, how can I be confident about what I'm supposed to do every day to be able to reach these goals that I have set. I hope that Nena's story just inspired you. If you're someone who feels like a little scared, right? Because I've been talking about this for a lot, and you might be, for a while, and you're seeing a lot of the trainings and the videos, so you might be a little afraid and think that it's a lot. I hope that Nena's story has let you see that you're in good hands. And we've definitely laid this out to be able to take you to your most profitable year. Okay. So go ahead, Nena.
Yeah, let me just add what just came to my mind. And I think this is one of the things I love about you that in my world differentiated things for me when I work with you is I feel like, it's easy, or it's kind of easy for you to listen to someone tell you, they got a framework. I'm going to teach you how to make 7 figures like I did.
Yeah.
But it's a different conversation when someone says, hey, I got a framework and I want to teach it to you so that you can use it to help your business. Because at the end of the day, the first example, you still got to translate it. You still got to figure out, okay, how does this fit for me? But the thing about Plan for Profit is you're doing the work then for you, for your business. Mm-hmm. And yeah, she, will give examples and show you how she does it, but it's also she's doing the same thing. So that's one of the things that really made a difference for me. Is like, don't just tell me, and then I got to go figure out how it translates for me. Help me translate it for me. And
Yeah.
that's what happened for me.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so how do people reach you and stay in contact with you?
Well, I have a community on Facebook, Social Media Success Hotspot. And I also am on all the different platforms as Miss Nena B. So LinkedIn is my jam. So that's the first place I encourage people to find me. But all the other platforms as well. And
Yeah.
so thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Nena. All right, and those of you who are listening, thank you so much for sticking through with us. We hope that you were inspired, and